In this video, we're going to have a closer look at some of the debugging and logging and more information we can get from our Tokaido environment when it's not working the way that we expect it to. So to start this, we're going to have a look at deliberately breaking the environment in probably the most simple way I know how, and that's simply to inject this oops in index.php. So I've done this. I've run the tokup command to restart my environment. And if I have a look, I can see that all of my containers are running. If any of these containers fail, I can have a look at the toklogs command and then pass in the container name. So for example, if I want to look at the SSH logs, I can run toklogs admin. I can run toklogs drush, which is the older name of the SSH container. Or I can run toklogs fpm. And I can see my fpm log in there, and I can see my error being reported in there as well. So it's very easy to gain access to this logging information through the containers, and I can also gain that information if I SSH into the environment and then move into the /tokaido/logs directory. In here, there's a directory for fpm, haproxy, nginx, varnish, syslog, and cron. The cron and syslog folders we can pretty much ignore. But if I look in the fpm log, I can only see an access.log file. I can see my access file there, I can see the requests. And if I navigate up and look in the nginx log, I can see an access and an error log. So I'll tail the error log, and in a separate browser window, I'll refresh this page, I'll get the error, and you can see the error was logged here. Now the reason it goes into the nginx error log is because with Tokaido, the errors that occur in FPM sort of bubble their way up to the nginx container using fastCGI, so nginx captures the error itself. If I exit out of that, if I Control C and exit out of that, and I run toklogs fpm again, I can also see the error as it appears here. So there's two ways that I can very quickly see what's going on with my environment. And of course I can always run the tokstatus command that'll give me a bit more of a rundown about what's going on. Now, the next thing I'll show you, I'll just go ahead and unbreak this. I'm going to show you how easy it is to turn Xdebug on for Tokaido. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to our trusty tokconfig command. I'm going to go to Tokaido, project settings, PHP Xdebug support. I'm going to turn that on. And then I'm going to run tok rebuild. So that's going to stop and restart my environment. I'll let that run in the background. While it's doing that, I'm going to pop over to the Tokaido documentation and look at the Xdebug information. And down here you'll see there's a snippet for vscode that I can put into vscode that will help me to configure Xdebug. So I'm going to copy that snippet. I'm going to pop on over to vscode. Go to debug, edit the configuration for PHP, and I'll paste that whole file into here. And there's just one change I need to make, and that's the path to my repo. And that's going to be the full path on my host system. So code my Drupal project. I'll save that. And that says that anything that's Tokaido's site in the FPM container maps to this file in my host, and it will configure Xdebug to listen on port 9000. I can change that port by changing the port that Tokaido is configured to use, but by default Tokaido is going to use port 9000. Alright, we can see that my environment's back up, and you can see that Xdebug is enabled on port 9000. So all I really need to do is start this debugger, that's running, and back in index.php I'll just put a breakpoint right here. And if I go into my browser, I'll go to the root page, and there you go. I've got an exception that's been captured. It's not exactly what I wanted it to do. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but you can see there that Xdebug is working with VS Code. Thanks for watching. I'm going to leave that there.